Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into the life of a historical figure whose legacy is an absolute masterclass in compassion. We're talking about Toyohiko Kagawa. Often remembered as the apostle of love and the architect of modern Japanese unions, Kagawa's life is this incredible study of how one person's definition of peace can scale from a deeply personal internal revelation all the way out to global pacifism. Over the next few minutes, we're going to unpack exactly how his extraordinary journey unfolded and why his legacy is still totally relevant to social reform today.
Christ alone can bring lasting peace to the human heart. Now, for Kagawa, a true revolution of peace couldn't just start out in the streets or within the government. It literally had to start in the human heart. Long before he was a labor advocate or a social reformer or a globally recognized pacifist, he recognized that finding inner peace was the absolutely non-negotiable foundation for changing the world.
How did an orphaned outcast become Japan's apostles of love? Seriously, how does that actually happen? We have to ask ourselves how a kid marked by intense tragedy, deep loneliness, and social stigma becomes a beacon of hope for an entire nation. How does someone go from being that deeply marginalized to transforming the relationship between Christian faith and social action in Japan?
To figure that out, we have to track his timeline. Starting in 1888 when he was orphaned in Kobe, moving into the 1910s when he relocated to the slums, through his firm World War II pacifism in the 1940s, and looking at his global enduring legacy by 1960. We're mapping out this expanding radius of his peaceful influence, taking it from his harshest origins all the way to the global stage.
Out of the shadows, the epicenter of inner peace. Kagawa's journey started in some incredibly deep hardship. Born in Kobe in 1888, his father was actually a wealthy businessman, but his mother was a concubine, and at that time in Japan, that status carried a really heavy social stigma. Orphaned shortly after as a young child, he was raised by relatives, carrying this profound isolation.
Finding the light. Despite being raised in loneliness, surrounded by family wealth, Kagawa didn't succumb to that tragic start. He encountered these kind Christian missionaries, which deeply impressed him. He ended up accepting Jesus Christ through Presbyterian Bible studies, and this just completely propelled him. He was educated at the Kobe Theological Seminary and even crossed the globe to pursue further studies at Princeton Theological Seminary, mastering biblical theology and peace studies.
Peace in the slums, a localized mission. Now, with a top-tier education like that under his belt, you'd probably expect Kagawa to land a super comfortable academic or pastoral job, right? Well, instead, his inner peace radiated outward when he made a truly shocking decision. He abandoned a comfortable life entirely to go live directly among the absolute poorest, most destitute residents of Kobe's slums. His slum dwelling measured only a few square meters. Just picture that for a second. In this tiny, cramped, few square meter space, he wasn't just observing poverty from a safe distance. He was sharing it. He lived side by side with laborers, widows, the homeless, and street children.
Love is the law of life. Guided by this famous principle, he proved that genuine faith requires tangible action. He didn't just preach to people. He acted as a peaceful, stabilizing anchor in a highly desperate and chaotic environment.
Bringing peace to chaos. His daily reality was grueling. He cared for tuberculosis patients, taught children, established schools, provided critical medical assistance, visited prisoners, and helped struggling families. He was out there proving every single day that peace is an active, compassionate practice.
Kagawa's unified methodology. Step 1, preach the gospel, evangelism. Step 2, provide compassionate service, social action. He firmly believed you simply couldn't have spiritual care without physical care. To him, evangelism and social compassion absolutely had to be executed together.
Justice without violence, national peace. As Japan rapidly industrialized, Kagawa's localized influence naturally scaled up to the national level. He expanded his radius of peace to fight for vulnerable factory workers who were enduring incredibly harsh, unfair conditions. Violent class rebellion versus peaceful negotiation and mutual responsibility. During this volatile era of industrialization, tensions were sky-high. But Kagawa neutrally and firmly rejected class hatred and violence. Instead, he championed peaceful negotiation between employers and workers to secure fair wages and safe working conditions. The cooperative movement. He established consumer and agricultural cooperatives, promoted mutual responsibility, championed honest business practices, encouraged shared ownership, and fostered nationwide community development.
He essentially architected modern Japanese unions and cooperatives as a peaceful economic alternative, and many of these flourished long after his death.
A global pacifist legacy. Ultimately, this massive ripple effect of peace couldn't just be contained to Japan. It reached the global stage, particularly during the incredibly turbulent years surrounding World War II.
Expanding the radius. He was a committed pacifist, opposing militarism, advocating for reconciliation both pre- and post-WW2. He traveled across the US, Europe, and China, and despite enduring intense government scrutiny during periods of fierce nationalism, he never wavered. His contributions were so profound, he was actually nominated for both the Nobel Peace Prize and the Nobel Prize in Literature.
Over 150. That's how many books Kagawa wrote. This massive intellectual and creative output included novels, theology, and works on economics. Titles like Across the Death Line and Brotherhood Economics, sharing his social ethics with the entire world. A unified legacy of love and action. When Kagawa passed away on April 23, 1960, at age 71, his funeral drew leaders, government officials, and ordinary citizens alike. They were all touched by a man who proved, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that one person's sacrificial obedience can literally influence a nation.
The best way to help the poor is to stand beside them, not above them. Think about that final thought for a moment. It perfectly summarizes his entire life's philosophy of humble service. He didn't lead from a comfortable distance. He stood right beside the vulnerable. How can you stand beside the vulnerable in your own community to bring lasting, peaceful change today? As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with that question. Looking at Kagawa's expanding radius of peace, how will you apply this methodology in your own world today? Thanks so much for joining me on this journey.